The auctioneer's gavel slammed down, sold, sealing the fate of a broken, skeletal stallion. His ribs jutted like prison bars, his eyes hollow with resignation. The meat buyer smirked. The crowd looked away. But in the back of the room, a young woman's hands clenched into fists. Emma wasn't supposed to be here. She wasn't even a buyer. Yet something in the horse's shattered pride screamed at her. Don't let me die like this. What happened next defied every odd. Against her father's warnings, Emma raced to the slaughterhouse, cash in hand, and demanded the worthless horse. The workers laughed. He'll be dead by morning, they warned. But when Emma whispered to the trembling stallion, "You're mine now," he lifted his head, and the impossible began. This isn't just a rescue tale. It's a raw journey of how one woman's stubborn love reignited a horse's will to live, and how his courage ended up saving her right back. Get ready for tears, chills, and a finale that'll leave you breathless. If you believe in second chances, smash that like button and subscribe. This story will wreck you, but in the best way. Sparkling heart, let's begin. The sun beat down mercilessly on the dusty grounds of the livestock auction. The low hum of conversation mixed with the occasional whinny of a horse. But amidst the chaos, one horse stood apart. He was a chestnut stallion, his coat dull and his ribs visible beneath his skin. His eyes, once full of life, were now clouded with resignation. Lot 42, the auctioneer called out, his voice sharp. Aged stallion, not broken. Low reserve price. No one moved. Buyers shuffled uncomfortably, some glancing at the horse with pity, others with disinterest. To them, he was just another animal past his prime, too old to work, too wild to train. The only bids came from meat buyers, their faces emotionless as they calculated his worth in pounds. Emma, a young woman with a soft heart and an even softer voice, watched from the corner. She wasn't there to buy. She was merely accompanying her father, a rancher. But her eyes kept drifting back to the stallion. There was something in the way he stood, defeated but still proud, that tugged at her heart. Sold, the auctioneer barked. The gavel fell. Lot 42 was loaded into a rusted trailer, his fate sealed. That night, as Emma sat on the porch of her family's ranch, she couldn't shake the image of the stallion from her mind. It's not fair, she murmured, her voice barely audible. He didn't even get a chance. Her father looked up from his newspaper, his brows furrowed. It's just how it is, Emma. Not every horse can be saved. But what if he could? She asked, her voice trembling. What if someone gave him a chance? Her father sighed, folding the paper. The world doesn't work like that, Emma. Sometimes you have to let go. The next morning, Emma couldn't help herself. She drove to the slaughterhouse, her heart pounding with every mile. The facility loomed large and gray against the horizon, its fences lined with horses waiting for their grim fate. There, among them, was the chestnut stallion. Emma approached the manager, her hands shaking. "I want to buy that horse," she said, pointing to Lot 42. The man raised an eyebrow. "He's already been sold for meat." "I'll pay more," she insisted, her voice firm. The man hesitated, then shrugged. "Your money. But don't say I didn't warn you. He's in bad shape." As the stallion was loaded into Emma's trailer, his head hung low, his spirit seemingly broken. Emma's eyes filled with tears as she whispered, "I don't know what brought me here, but I promise you this isn't the end for you." The trailer rattled as Emma drove down the bumpy dirt road leading to her family's ranch. She glanced in the rearview mirror at the chestnut stallion, who stood unsteady, his ears flicking nervously at every jolt. Her heart clenched at his frail condition, but she whispered softly, "You're safe now." When they arrived, Emma's father was waiting by the barn, his arms crossed. His expression darkened when he saw the horse. "Emma," he said, his tone disapproving. "What were you thinking?" "He deserves a chance, Dad," Emma replied, her voice steady but pleading. "I couldn't just leave him there." Her father sighed, shaking his head. "It's your responsibility now. But don't expect me to help when it becomes too much." Emma nodded, determination lighting her face. With the help of the ranch hands, she unloaded the stallion. He stumbled slightly as his hooves hit the ground, his ribs heaving with every breath. Emma led him gently into an empty stall, her hands trembling as she secured the gate. She filled a bucket with fresh water and placed a pile of hay in the corner, but the stallion barely moved. He stood motionless, his head low, his eyes distant. Emma crouched beside the gate, her voice soft. "I don't know what you've been through, but I'm here now. We'll get through this together." For days, the stallion remained withdrawn. He refused to eat or drink unless Emma was nearby. Her quiet presence seemed to be the only thing that kept him tethered to reality. She named him Phoenix, a symbol of rebirth. Though she knew his recovery would be a long and uncertain journey, Emma spent hours in the barn, talking to Phoenix in hushed tones. She read to him from her favorite books, her voice calm and soothing. She hummed tunes her mother used to sing, hoping the melody would reach the broken animal in some unspoken way. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Emma noticed something different. Phoenix lifted his head slightly as she entered the stall, his ears twitching at her voice. It was the first sign of life she'd seen in him, and her heart swelled with cautious hope. "You're starting to trust me, aren't you?" she said, crouching to his level. "We'll take this one day at a time." But not everyone shared Emma's optimism. The ranch hands whispered doubts as they worked, their skepticism heavy in the air. "That horse is a lost cause," one said. "He's too far gone." Emma ignored them, her focus entirely on Phoenix. She knew his wounds ran deeper than his malnourished body. It was his spirit that needed healing. And for that, she would need patience, love, and a miracle. One stormy night, the ranch was eerily quiet, the rain pounding against the barn roof. Emma checked on Phoenix before heading to bed, but something stopped her in her tracks. The stallion, who had always stood with his head low, turned to meet her gaze for the first time. His eyes held a flicker of recognition, a connection. As the storm raged outside, Emma knelt beside Phoenix's stall, tears streaming down her face. "You're still in there," she whispered. "But could this fragile bond be enough to bring him back from the brink?" The next morning, the ranch was blanketed in mist, the air cool and heavy with the scent of rain-soaked earth. Emma entered the barn to check on Phoenix, her heart racing with hope after their quiet breakthrough the night before. As she approached his stall, she paused. Phoenix was standing taller, his ears pricked forward, and his eyes followed her movement. "Good morning, Phoenix," she said softly, her voice filled with warmth. She reached in her pocket, pulling out a handful of fresh carrots. "Let's see if you're feeling a little braver today." Phoenix hesitated, his nostrils flaring as he sniffed the air. Slowly, he took a cautious step toward her. Emma held her breath, her hand steady as she extended the treat. When Phoenix gently took the carrot from her palm, a small laugh escaped her lips, tears brimming in her eyes. "There you go," she whispered. "You're not so afraid anymore." Her father, observing from the barn door, raised an eyebrow. "He's eating." "That's a start," he muttered, his tone skeptical but less harsh. Emma smiled, not letting his doubt dampen her spirits. "It's more than a start. It's trust." Over the following days, Phoenix continued to show signs of progress. He began eating more consistently, his dull coat gaining a slight sheen as his strength returned. Emma spent hours grooming him, her hands working gently to untangle his matted mane. She spoke to him constantly, her words a soothing balm for the wounds time had yet to heal. One afternoon, as Emma led Phoenix out of his stall for a short walk around the paddock, a group of ranch hands stopped to watch. "She's wasting her time," one muttered. "That horse isn't meant for anything but the slaughterhouse." Emma's jaw tightened, but she kept her focus on Phoenix. "Come on, boy," she said softly, guiding him forward. His steps were unsteady at first, but with Emma's encouragement, he began to move more confidently. By the time they reached the edge of the paddock, Phoenix's head was held higher, his ears flicking toward the sound of Emma's voice. She knelt in the dirt beside him, her hand resting lightly on his neck. "You're stronger than they think," she murmured. "Stronger than even you know." But as Phoenix made small strides forward, the reality of his past lingered like a shadow. One evening, while brushing him in the barn, Emma noticed a deep scar running along his flank. Her breath hitched as she traced the old wound with her fingers. What did they do to you? She whispered, her voice trembling. Phoenix turned his head slightly, his dark eyes meeting hers, as if to say, it doesn't matter anymore. The next morning, Emma decided it was time for a new challenge. She brought out a halter and lead rope, her hand steady but her heart pounding. Let's see how you feel about a little more freedom, she said. Phoenix tensed as she slipped the halter over his head, his muscles coiling like a spring. Emma moved slowly, her voice calm. It's okay. I'm right here. They stepped into the paddock, the sunlight casting a golden glow over the ranch. Emma released the lead rope, giving Phoenix the space to move on his own. For a moment, he stood still, his body rigid with uncertainty. Then, as if testing his own limits, he broke into a trot. Emma watched in awe as Phoenix moved across the paddock, his strides growing longer and more fluid with each step. The ranch hands fell silent, their whispers replaced by the sound of hooves striking the earth. For the first time, Phoenix looked like the horse he was meant to be, strong, graceful, and free. As Phoenix came to a halt near the fence, he turned to Emma, his ears flicking forward. In his eyes, she saw not just trust, but a spark of something more, hope. But would it be enough to erase the scars of his past and carry him toward a brighter future? As the days turned into weeks, Phoenix's transformation became undeniable. His once dull coat now shone in the sunlight, and his gaunt frame had filled out with newfound strength. The ranch hands, who had once doubted Emma's efforts, began to watch in silent admiration as Phoenix trotted confidently around the paddock, his movements fluid and graceful. One afternoon, Emma decided it was time for the next step. She approached her father in the barn, her voice steady. I want to let Phoenix run in the open pasture. Her father frowned, setting down a bale of hay. Emma, that horse hasn't been in open space in years. What if he bolts? What if you lose him? Emma met his gaze, determination shining in her eyes. He won't. You trust me. Her father sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. All right, he said reluctantly. But be careful, and don't say I didn't warn you. Emma led Phoenix to the pasture gate, her heart pounding. The wide expanse of grass stretched out before them, the wind carrying the scent of wildflowers. She removed the halter, her hands trembling slightly. Go on, boy, she said softly. This is your moment. Phoenix hesitated, his ears flicking back and forth as he looked at Emma, then at the open field. For a moment, he stood motionless, as if the weight of his past held him back. Then, with a sudden burst of energy, he leapt forward, his hooves kicking up dirt as he broke into a gallop. Emma watched in awe as Phoenix raced across the pasture, his mane flying in the wind. He moved like a creature reborn, his powerful strides carrying him farther and faster than she had ever seen. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, You're free. The ranch hands gathered at the fence, their expressions a mix of astonishment and disbelief. Clara, one of the newer workers, shook her head. I've never seen anything like it. That horse was supposed to be dead. Emma smiled, her heart swelling with pride. He just needed someone to believe in him. But as Phoenix circled back toward the fence, a loud crack of thunder echoed across the sky. The sudden noise startled him, and he reared up, his eyes wild with fear. Emma's heart leapt into her throat as Phoenix bolted toward the far side of the pasture, where the fence line met the dense woods. Phoenix! Emma shouted, running after him. Her father and the ranch hands followed, their voices calling out in the storm. When they reached the fence, Phoenix was nowhere to be seen. Emma's father placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice grave. We'll find him, but it's getting dark. He might not come back. Emma shook her head, tears streaming down her face. He will, she said, her voice breaking. He has to. The storm intensified as night fell, the rain soaking the ranch. They searched the woods with flashlights, Emma refusing to give up. Her determination unwavering, she called out, Phoenix, come back to me. Just as the first rays of dawn broke through the storm clouds, Emma heard a faint sound, a soft nicker carried on the wind. She turned, her heart racing, and saw Phoenix standing at the edge of the clearing, his coat glistening with rain. His eyes met hers, and in that moment, Emma knew he had come back, not out of fear, but because of their bond. As Emma approached Phoenix, she saw something in his eyes that she hadn't seen before: complete trust. But could their connection withstand the challenges yet to come? Or would the scars of Phoenix's past resurface when they least expected it? The morning sun bathed the ranch in a golden glow, drying the remnants of the storm from the fields. Phoenix stood in the paddock, his muscles tense but his gaze fixed on Emma as she approached with a gentle smile. "You scared me last night, boy," Emma said softly, running her hand along his neck. "But I knew you'd come back." Her father watched from the barn, his arms crossed, but his expression less critical than before. "You've done something incredible, Emma," he admitted. "I didn't think he had it in him, or you, for that matter." Inspired by Phoenix's progress, Emma decided it was time for another challenge. She approached Clara and the other ranch hands with an idea that left them skeptical. "I want to train Phoenix for the town's annual riding showcase." The room fell silent. Before Clara spoke, "Emma, that's ambitious. He's come far, but it's risky." Emma nodded. "I know, but Phoenix isn't the same horse he was when I brought him here. He deserves a chance to show what he's capable of." Her father sighed. "All right, Emma, but if you're going to do this, you'll need all the help you can get." The next weeks were grueling. Emma worked tirelessly with Phoenix, introducing him to a saddle for the first time. At first, he balked, tossing his head and stepping nervously, but Emma's patience never wavered. Each time he resisted, she spoke to him in soothing tones, her voice a steady anchor. "Easy, Phoenix," she murmured. "We're in this together." Little by little, Phoenix adjusted to the saddle. Emma began walking him around the path, his steps slow but steady. Eventually, she mounted him for the first time, her heart pounding as she felt his powerful frame beneath her. Phoenix shifted uncertainly, but with Emma's gentle encouragement, he began to move. "You're doing it," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "You're really doing it." Word of Phoenix's transformation spread across the town, and the ranch became a hub of curiosity. Neighbors and ranchers stopped by, their skepticism melting into admiration as they watched Phoenix and Emma work together. On the morning of the showcase, the ranch buzzed with excitement. Emma led Phoenix to the trailer, his coat gleaming in the sunlight. As they arrived at the arena, Emma's nerves began to surface. The crowd was larger than she had anticipated, their murmurs filling the air. Her father placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You've got this, Emma." And so does he. When their turn came, Emma guided Phoenix into the arena. The crowd fell silent, their attention riveted on the pair. Emma took a deep breath, her hands steady on the reins. "Let's show them who you really are," she whispered. They began with a slow trot, Phoenix's movement graceful and controlled. As they progressed to more intricate maneuvers, the audience erupted into applause, their cheers echoing through the arena. Emma's heart swelled with pride as Phoenix responded to every cue, his trust in her evident with each step. But the true test came with the final challenge, a small jump set near the center of the arena. Emma hesitated, her mind flashing back to the storm and Phoenix's fear of loud noises. "You can do this," she said softly, her voice trembling. "I believe in you." Phoenix gathered himself, his muscles coiling like a spring. With a powerful push, he leapt over the jump, landing cleanly on the other side. The crowd rose to their feet, their cheers deafening. Emma leaned forward, wrapping her arms around Phoenix's neck as tears streamed down her face. "We did it," she whispered. "You're free." As they exited the arena to thunderous applause, a man approached Emma with an offer that could change everything for her and Phoenix. Would this new opportunity bring them closer, or would it test their bond in ways they never imagined? As Emma and Phoenix exited the arena, their hearts still racing from the performance, a man in a sharp suit approached them. He extended his hand with a warm smile. "Miss Emma, that was extraordinary. My name is Mark Thompson, and I represent the National Equine Therapy Foundation. I'd like to speak with you about Phoenix." Emma shook his hand, her brow furrowing in curiosity. "What about him?" Mark gestured toward Phoenix, who stood calm and proud by Emma's side. Phoenix's story is incredible. A horse destined for slaughter transformed into a symbol of resilience and trust. We'd like to feature him in our equine therapy program for at-risk youth. Emma's father, standing nearby, folded his arms. "That's a big step," he said cautiously. "What exactly are you proposing?" Mark explained, his tone earnest. "We run a program where horses like Phoenix help kids dealing with trauma or anxiety. His presence and story could inspire them in ways we can't even measure. We'd like to partner with you, Emma, to bring Phoenix into this initiative." Emma looked at Phoenix, her heart swelling with pride and uncertainty. The thought of sharing him with others was both thrilling and daunting. "I'll need time to think about it," she said finally. Over the next few weeks, Emma weighed the decision carefully. She spent countless hours with Phoenix, grooming him, riding him, and sitting quietly by his side. "What do you think, boy?" she asked one evening, stroking his mane. "Could you help others the way you've helped me?" Phoenix nickered softly, his dark eyes meeting hers. Emma took it as a sign. Finally, she called Mark. "We'll do it," she said, her voice filled with determination. The transition wasn't easy. The ranch became a hub of activity as Emma prepared Phoenix for his new role. She worked closely with therapists and trainers, teaching Phoenix how to respond to gentle cues from the children he would meet. His calm demeanor and intuitive nature quickly made him a favorite among the staff. The first day of the program was emotional. A small group of children, each carrying their own invisible scars, gathered at the ranch. One boy, Timmy, stood apart from the others, his shoulders hunched and his gaze fixed on the ground. Emma approached him with a kind smile. "Would you like to meet Phoenix?" Timmy hesitated, then nodded. Emma led him to the paddock where Phoenix waited patiently. "He's just like you," she said softly. "He's been through a lot, but he's stronger because of it." Timmy reached out tentatively, his hand trembling as he touched Phoenix's neck. The horse stood perfectly still, his eyes closing slightly as if to reassure the boy. Timmy's face lit up with a shy smile, and for the first time that day, he spoke. "He's amazing." From that moment on, Phoenix became a beacon of hope for the children who visited the ranch. His journey from despair to triumph resonated deeply with them, teaching them that no matter how broken they felt, healing was always possible. Months later, Emma stood by the fence, watching as Phoenix trotted around the paddock with a group of laughing children. Her father joined her, his expression soft. "You've done something incredible here, Emma. Phoenix isn't just a horse, he's a miracle." Emma nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "He saved me as much as I saved him." As the sun set over the ranch, Emma knelt beside Phoenix, resting her forehead against his. "We've come so far, haven't we?" she whispered. Phoenix nickered softly, his breath warm against her face. Together, they had turned a story of near tragedy into one of hope, proving that even in the darkest moments, second chances could shine the brightest. This story isn't about a hero or a victim. It's about the invisible thread between broken souls, how saving another can stitch us back together. Phoenix didn't just survive, he thrived. And Emma? She learned that love isn't logical. It's the only thing that ever changes the world. If this story moved you, let's make it go viral. Share it with someone who needs hope today. Love letter comment Phoenix below if you believe in miracles. And hit subscribe for more real-life fairy tales. Because somewhere another lost cause is waiting for their Emma, and your voice might just help them find her.